Gracious Heavenly Father, we do thank you and praise you for this opportunity to come together. We just pray for our country in these upcoming elections, Father, that your will be done. We just pray, Father, everyone go with the right spirit, that we would vote our conscience, and that we would vote for the right person, Father, and that your will would be done. And we just thank you and praise you for this wonderful country where we have the freedoms to do these things. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in a moment of silence for the 9/11 victims. Thank you. I would like to remind everyone that we lost a very good patriot in Jake Bender, and there's a lot of items back on the table. Please, we're giving them out free in memory of Jake Bender. There's bumper stickers, some t-shirts, things like that. Please go back and visit the table tonight. Take something with you, but Jake is sorely missed, and we have a very big hole in the organization without Jake. So, now, I'm going to be timing tonight on Rod Miller's watch. Now, those of you that know what Miller minutes are, I assume this watch works right, but okay, so I'm going to try my best to stay on time. I'd like to ask Linda Brancador to come up for membership.
Hello, I'm Linda Brancador. I'm membership chairman. How many of you heard my robocall? Raise your hand if you did. Oh, good. Could you understand me? Okay, good. How many of you are here for the very first time because of the robocall? Good, good. I'm so happy. How many is that? If you would like to join, we have membership applications in the back. There is no fee for being a member of our group. And you'll go on our email list and you will get hundreds of emails every week. No, I'm only kidding. We only send important things, what we think are important, you know, election things and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Oh, and meeting information. Yeah. Okay. Also, there's going to be a Pray for America rally, October 15th. Check out our website. I'll have it on the website too. On the calendar, you can check all the things that are happening. It's going to be on the Penn Street Bridge at 12 noon. Make it a good show. We really would like to have lots of people there to show our respect and to get God back in our schools for sure. Okay. Okay. Also, we're selling coupons for Bosco's. I'm doing it, Judy. They're $5, and you get a 25% discount on anything that you buy on this particular day. What day is it? What day?
Tuesday, October 18th.
October 18th. You go to the store and you get 25% discount off anything you buy if you have this card. And the card is $5 and it goes in our kitty, so it helps us to get some money in our kitty, which we badly need. So if you'll please stop back and see Judy in the blue. She has the coupons at $5 and we certainly would appreciate it if you all bought some. Okay. That's it, I guess, huh? Oh, okay.
I'd also like to, yes, thank you, Linda. I'd like to thank Judy for putting this print big enough that I can read it, because I don't like to admit it, but I need to wear glasses now, and my arms are no longer long enough, so, but the print's big enough I can read it. So, anyways, we have a event that we want to mention here. It's the Lehigh 912 project. It will be in Jim Thorpe. It will be, they'll be having Chris Tonto, the Benghazi survivor and motivational, gosh, okay, no wait, I have to have it out here, now I can see it. Motivational speaking on Sunday, November 6th at Penn's Peak. That's even better, actually. Doors open at 1 o'clock. Chris will speak on the 13 hours of assault that occurred in Benghazi. Flyers are on the back table, so if you can in any way be there on November 6th, it would be a good event, and you might want to hear this man speak about the truth of what happened that day. And you know, the more support he gets out there, the more the word can get out about what the truth is. So anyways, that's on the back. At this time, I would like to ask Ron Rothenberger, our sponsor for this meeting, to come up and say a few words and tell us about what he does.
Well, thank you all, and thank you for having me here this evening. Again, I am a sponsor and proud to be a sponsor with the Berks County Patriots. I have my own independent insurance agency located on Penn Avenue in West Reading. There are a few of you that I have already been able to help, but just to mention to you, there is no obligation or cost involved if you would like me to review your current policies and see if there's any savings to be had, but also, more importantly, to make sure that you have the proper coverage in place already. We have 24 different carriers that we represent, so there really isn't any type of insurance needs that you might have that I would not be able to address. Thank you so much.
Hi, folks. I just want to let you know that I use Ron. He's fantastic. You should at least let him have an opportunity to give you a quote on his shorts. There's been a change in the schedule. Not sure if you're familiar with Concerned Veterans for America. They are sponsoring an event which we're partnering with. It's going to be on September 28th at the Doubletree in Reading. We were supposed to have the state director here, Eve Allen, but her son took ill. This is for veterans and their spouses. It's a free dinner. Also, Navy SEAL, U.S. Navy SEAL, Jason Redmond is going to be there. If you want to go, I would suggest see us. We can sign you up. We have a website. We got to get you in right away because it's going to go quick. It's first come, first served. So it'll be a great event to go to. That's 2 weeks from yesterday. Okay? Now, folks, it's that time of year, Berks County Patriots elections, and per our bylaws, I need to read the following. The third Thursday in September at our general meeting, the election committee shall announce that nominations will be open from the first day in October to October 31st. Nominations will be accepted in writing, email, or U.S. mail to the chairman of the election committee and posted promptly on the BCP website. It is a responsibility of the nominating entry to ensure that their intent is communicated to the election committee and shall have their name and email available to be displayed on the BCP website. Self-nominations are permitted.
So I can sit down.
Yeah.
Folks, we have 4 board vacancies and 5 board members that their term ends. That's 9 positions we're trying to fill. We need your help. I know we said this many times, but we're skating, on thin ice here. We're not sure how long what we can do. It's like a skeleton crew that we have going. So we hope that some of you will sign up. You can also see any board member to get yourself signed up. I'm sorry, I got this distracted from the next thing I'm going to be doing. Sorry about that. So, folks, we do need your help. Folks, from time to time, we like to acknowledge those that give of their time and effort to help us on a regular basis. And tonight, we want to acknowledge Mark Bannister. Mark is here doing the video. He's here almost every month for years, standing up there. I know it must get tiring at times, Mark. And if you'd like to see the results of his efforts, go on our BCP website, click on the video, and then click on general meeting. Mark, thank you very much for what you're doing every month. On behalf of the Berks County Patriots, we'd like to give you a small token of our appreciation. It's a $25 gift certificate to Olive Garden. I hope you like all Italian food. It's not much, but we really appreciate it. Every month you guys here, and we certainly appreciate it. Okay? Folks, let's give Mark a big hand. Thanks, Mark. Okay, folks, our first speaker this evening is Commissioner, Berks County Commissioner, Kevin Barnhardt. I'd like to just tell you a little bit about Kevin. Oh, yes. Kevin Barnhardt is a lifelong Berks County resident, along with his wife, Pamela. Did someone say they couldn't hear me? Along with his wife, Pamela. They have a son, Christopher, and 2 grandsons. Kevin has 30 years of private industrial management experience in sales, marketing, and merchandising. His 30 years in government experience include, in part, West Reading Borough Council from 1982 to 1987, as well as the mayor of West Reading, where he served with distinction until 2007. Regarding county finances, and I'm quoting Kevin, "At every level of government, there are opportunities to freeze or cut spending. I plan to vigorously pursue these opportunities. There are opportunities to maximize and redirect funding streams for Berks County to reduce the burden on our county taxpayers and wage earners. I will work to eliminate state and federal unfunded mandates, which increase the size of the government bureaucracy and greatly expand the cost of services countrywide." Folks, I say amen to that. The Commissioner is here tonight to explain the county's proposed $5 fee for local construction and repairs of public highway and bridges. Now, they made a special effort to come here. This is not enacted, it's proposed. They want your feedback. This is your time to voice your opinion, pro or con, not after this goes down or not goes down. So please, let your voice be heard. Folks, let's give a great warm welcome to Berks County Commissioner Kevin Barnhardt.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Berks County Patriots, for the opportunity to be here this evening. And you listened to that little monologue about me, and I'm going to ask you about your consideration of the $5 fee, so it seems a little hypocritical. But anyway, we have been tasked to go out publicly and have 3 public meetings to discuss this proposal, and this is one of the opportunities we want to have feedback from you folks. I have with me tonight Ron Seaman, who is our administrative officer. He was handing out the fact sheets. Commissioner Christian Leinbach back there in the brown suit. I have Ryan Hunter, our Facilities and Operations Director, and Alan Piper, our Transportation Planner from the County Planning Commission. So, without further ado, we want to walk you through our PowerPoint presentation. The fee is part of Act 89, which was the transportation bill enacted by the state in 2013, which allows counties, at an option of the county level, to impose a $5 fee on your vehicle registration. So right now you're paying $36 per vehicle. This would potentially, if enacted, would make it $41 a year. Once it will be imposed, it would be effective in 90 days. So in theory, if this is imposed October 1, then January it would become effective. So as you get your new registration forms, it would start in 2017. The fee is collected by PennDOT and is remitted back to the counties every 6 months. So in June and December of every year, that amount of money would come back to Berks County. That's kind of the key here. The money comes back to Berks County. So when you pay at the pump, you pay all those taxes at the pump, that money goes to the state, and the state determines where that money's being used. This $5 optional fee comes directly back to Berks County to be used by Berks County. So it can only be used for construction, reconstruction, maintenance, safety improvements, and repairs to public highways and bridges. We can't take this and put it in the general fund, or put it in parks, or put it in the planning commission. It has to go back into the funds that we use to update and rehabilitate our roads and bridges. We could have the option, now none of the counties I've interviewed have done this yet, but there is an option for us to take this money and distribute it out to the municipalities if we so choose. But I'll get to the point why it's probably more in the best interest of the county because of the structural deficiency of many of our bridges. How will Berks benefit? In 2014, the latest number we had, there was 383,500 non-exempt vehicles in Berks County. Now, non-exempt vehicles on that form that Ron handed out, they're like municipal vehicles, police vehicles, folks who have veterans disability tags. So there are people that actually are exempt from paying the registration fee. So if you're paying the registration fee now, if enacted, this $5 would be added onto your registration. Now, potentially, with 383,500 non-exempt vehicles, the maximum amount of money coming back to Berks County at 100% is $1.9 million and change. So we thought, being conservative, to look at about 70% would be about $1.3 million. Now, it seems like a lot of money, but in reality, it's not a lot of money when it comes to construction of roads and bridges. We actually just heard the bid today for the reconstruction of the Penn Street Bridge. Reconstruction of a bridge, not replacement, is over $42 million for the Penn Street Bridge. Buttonwood Street Bridge is a county-owned bridge, the longest one we have. That one came in excess of $15 million. So it gives you an idea of what $1.3, $1.9 million can actually do. So far, there's actually 13 counties that have enacted this optional $5 fee. This afternoon, we were notified that Montgomery County has just enacted the fee as well. So this is something we're looking at, and we certainly want to finish the presentation and then open it up to questions. But at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Ryan Hunter so he can give you the impact on some of the assets that the county has. Thank you.
How many times do you see the money come back?
Good evening. My name is Ryan Hunter. As the Commissioner said, I'm Director of Facilities and Operations for the County of Berks. I'm the primary county agent responsible for the county's bridge program. In your community, you basically have three categories of bridge. You have the state-owned bridges, so any bridges that would be on a state route. We have 59 county-owned bridges, and then whatever's left over is typically owned by the local municipality. What I'm going to focus mainly on is the county-owned bridges. PennDOT handles their own bridges for the state, and the municipalities handle their own bridges at the municipal level. My job tonight, my goal tonight is just basically to give you a snapshot of what the county's bridge network looks like and what this potential fund could be used for. The county owns 59 bridges, as I stated. When we look to replace a bridge or rehab it to the tune, as the Commissioner said, rehabilitation of the Buttonwood Street Bridge is a little bit north of $15 million. If we're making that type of investment, the typical lifespan of bridge that we target is 50 years. So to give you an idea as to where we stand with Berks County-owned bridges, 19 of our 59 bridges are over 100 years old. 10 of them are 75 to 100, and only about 24 of them are less than 50 years old. 31 of the 59 are deemed structurally deficient. This does not necessarily mean that they're unsafe. It just means that one of the primary components of the bridge has started to deteriorate. Maybe it's the substructure, maybe it's the abutments, maybe it's the deck. Sometimes if you see the steel truss that provides the structural support, maybe some of those critical truss members are starting to deteriorate. Also, 7 of the county bridges are functionally obsolete. Again, it's a term that sounds a little bit worse than it is. That just means that if we were going to replace that bridge today, it wouldn't meet today's standards. maybe the lanes aren't wide. These are the same maps that we have in print over here on the easel, and certainly after we're done with our presentation and the rest of the meeting, if you want to look at these in greater detail, I'll gladly go over them with you. But this is a map of the county-owned bridges, where the 59 of them are. Then also we have over here the municipal-owned bridges. So these two maps are county and municipal. We don't have the state-owned bridges on these maps, but that's what these two are. And it gives you a sense to show, so for example, this is the municipal bridges. For those of you that can see, I know it's a little bit hazy in here, but the green dots are municipal-owned bridges that are structurally deficient. The orange squares are those that are functionally obsolete. And the same goes on both maps. So I'm just going to toggle back and forth. You can kind of see the volume of structurally deficient and functionally obsolete bridges we have between counties and municipalities. Commissioners really, this Board of Commissioners in particular has really resurrected the attention to the county's bridge network beginning in 2008 and then in earnest in 2010. The goal that we've set for ourselves internally in the county is 2 major replacements and or rehabilitations a year. That's bringing 2 bridges back up to that 50-year lifespan and then making sure that we pay the proper attention to maintenance going forward so that we're not faced with a bridge that should have lasted 50 years but only lasted 25. What this chart is, the red line represents that 2 bridge per year goal. This is a 20-year snapshot. So the green vertical line is where we're at right now. That's 2016. And so you can see for the last several years, starting in 2012, we've either met or exceeded that goal. It's something that we're proud of and something that we're definitely going to keep our nose to the grindstone. This is Temple Bridge. It's on Water Street between Kutztown Road and 222 in Muhlenberg Township. This bridge was just completed in 2015. And I brought this as a representative sample of what we do when we talk about some of these major rehabilitations. This bridge is the top picture here, these were adjacent box beams. They sound just like that, they're hollow. You cut one in half and you looked at it, it would just be a box. And back in the late 70s, early 80s, this was a very popular design for bridges. Unfortunately, what they didn't realize is that when you have the deck on top, when that deck starts to crack, you get water inside these beams, and the beams just hold the water in there. And before long, that starts to eat away at the concrete, and then it reaches the actual steel reinforcement in the concrete, which is the bottom picture. And the next thing you know, the components of that bridge that provided all of its structural strength are gone. So these bridges are failing at a rapid rate. As I said, these were installed late 70s, early 80s, so by, maybe about 35, 38 years. So these are the before pictures. This is after. This is what this was as of November 2015. So, taking the bridges that are deteriorated, broken, getting ahead of them before they get to the point where we have to close them and have that impact in a local community, and replacing them with the standards of today. I'm going to turn this over to Alan Piper, who is our transportation planner, who's going to talk to you about sort of what dollars we get now, and where they go, where they come from, and where they go.
Thanks, Brian. Good evening, folks. I'm going to do 3 things. What we do is, right now, we get about $1.5 million a year that we can apply towards our county-owned bridges. The primary source of that comes through what's known as County Liquid Fuels Funds. These are funds that you pay as a part of your gas tax right now at the gas station. It comes back, it's dedicated to the county, it goes to the county. There's a similar fee that goes to your municipalities that they also use for improving their bridges and roads. We get about $850,000 from that. There's a second source of funding that we get. It's a relatively new fund. It's called the Act 13 Marcellus Shale Funding. This was enacted after the state started tapping the Marcellus shale gas, primarily up in northern and western Pennsylvania. We get a fee of about $500,000 a year from that. And we can only use that to fix what's referred to as the structurally deficient bridges, the worst of the worst of the worst. One thing I'll point out on this is that despite the fact that there was an awful lot of emphasis placed on the revenues that we could see from the Marcellus Shale, the revenues from that are going down. When the first year that came out, we received over $600,000 a year in that Act 13 fund. Our current funding on that is, as I said, is really only roughly $550,000 right now, so it's already down significantly. And then there's a third state funding that was from Act 44. It was another state act that had to do back when they were talking about the idea of increasing the tolls in the turnpike and doing the toll on Interstate 80, which ultimately was failed. However, we do get another $130,000 out of that. So again, that gives us a total of about $1.5 million a year. So based on our projected revenues, you can see that we would nearly double the amount of funds that are available to Berks County by enacting the $5 registration fee. One other source of funding that we get, and it's one that I work with mostly, is in working with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation and trying to get state and federal dollars to come in and to be able to use on the county bridges. We work with them very closely. When we're able to get those funds, we get about 80% of the funding for a bridge project is federal dollars. Another 15% of that is state, and we can use only 5% of our funding for that. The only trouble is that the state puts strings on what you can use your dollars for. Obviously, they want us to spend as much of our dollars as we can addressing the deficiencies on the state system first. So when you get down to the local bridges that are for both the county and the municipalities, which is the other map that Brian showed, there's really not that much money left, and it doesn't go very far when you do that. We're lucky if we can get a bridge or every update that we do with the state, and that's like every 2 years. The bottom line on that is that the deterioration, the bridges that we have are deteriorating faster than we have the revenue to be able to keep them up and maintain them. So even though we're spending more money right now, the bridges are deteriorating faster and more bridges are going from adequate to either structurally or functionally deficient. So what do we get if we do the $5 fee? We could do at least one more major replacement project a year, or maybe two deck projects. Brian, you talked about the Temple Bridge. That was what, $800,000 total? $865,000. That was not a replacement. All we did there was take the old deck off of the bridge and put a new deck back on. We left the abutments there that were in place and did virtually nothing else to that bridge. What was Crispin Road? That was a full replacement. That was in the neighborhood of $1.5 million, about $1.5 million to replace a relatively short 60-foot bridge. We didn't do anything special with it. It's a very plain bridge meeting the design standards, but that's what things are costing us right now. The one advantage that we get by using these dollars is that because they're not the same as the dollars that we get through the state program, through the Transportation Improvement Program, is that there aren't as many strings attached. If we use federal dollars, there's more strings. If we use the regular state dollars, there's more strings that are attached, more hoops that we have to go through. The advantage that we have here is that these dollars go farther. You can use them more efficiently because there aren't as many regulations to follow to have to do that. You can still get the same amount of quality material. You just don't have to do all of the extra studies up front that get you to where you're going. The other thing on this, I talked about how we got the Act 13 money from the gas fund. Well, as that gas fund depletes, we get less money out of that. The vehicle registration fee is a very reliable source. We went back and we tracked vehicle registration, and yes, it has grown, but it's grown very slowly, and it's been very stable across the last 15, 20 years. So it's a very reliable source. It's something that we can plan on and we can project. And the last thing is that it's an equitable fund. You're collecting it from road users here in Berks County, and all of those funds are getting applied to roads and bridges here in Berks County. In our case, it's not, it really for now won't be roads. It'll be exclusively for county-owned bridges. That's an overview of this. Commissioner and Ryan and I will be happy to answer any questions that you folks might have on this. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, and we can toggle back and forth through any of the screens if you want any clarification on anything, but I think the bottom line here, there's a real safety component to this. Some of these structurally deficient bridges, some of these are weight restricted. We've, over the past 5 or 6 years, we've closed a number of bridges, and really this really boils down to not only that, it's a public safety issue as well. So, questions?
I have a question. I did the robocalls, and of course my telephone number was on it, and I got a call last evening from a gentleman that was upset. He heard about the $5 tax. And he said to me, am I aware that we just had a registration increase for our vehicles, and the state of Pennsylvania has taken some of that money to fund the state police. Right. So he doesn't feel as though we need another tax to fund someone else.
That sort of explains the county dilemma where that fuel tax is going to fund state police and other, it isn't going directly to state highways and bridges. So with a local $5 fee, we can assure that money's coming back to Berks County, staying in Berks County, and we can prove at the end of each fiscal year which of the 2 or 3 bridges we rehabilitated with this money. So I understand his point, and coming from a community that has a full-time police department, and I pay state taxes and I pay township taxes for my state police, I'm as annoyed as he is.
Okay.
In fairness.
I'm just
over here. I have a question myself, then we'll get to her. What's going to happen to all the people that live in Berks County that have a Lebanon County, Lehigh County, whatever address? I know I grew up in the western part of Berks County. I know a lot of them people have Richland RDs, Myerstown's RDs. What's going to happen to them?
Well, I would assume wherever they get their registration mailed to, and if it's a Berks County address, they would potentially pay the $5 fee.
Yeah, but if it's a Richland RD address and they live in Berks County, that's a Lebanon County address.
Okay.
So that could mean thousands and thousands of dollars that's not going to come in, but then people are going to reap the benefits. I don't know if you thought about that.
That's something we have to get back to you on, because I'm not really sure running a address like that whether there's an issue. But the only thing I can reference is the number of total vehicles that are registered in Berks County. That's the only number that I know at this point. So something we'll have to get back to you on. I understand your point.
Sorry. As I understand, this can be a one-time deal or a recurring deal on this $5?
By ordinance, the county would potentially put it on the books. Now, you can repeal an ordinance at any time.
Well,
you can put a time limit on it, but in fairness, if we did this for a year or two, we'd only get started and then have to stop it. So it really wouldn't make a lot of sense to do it for a handful of years when we have 59 bridges that need attention.
Well, I mean, it looks like you've already made up your mind. You've played your hand, because one of your bullets was recurring and stable revenue. So it sounds like you've already made your mind up that this is going to be ongoing. That bullet shouldn't be in there.
Well, personally, I think an ordinance can be repealed by anyone at any time. So my answer to you is, I think it gets started, and I think the county, if it gets started, the county looks and sees how it's progressing. Now, there could be a future end date that says our bridges are structurally sufficient and we're caught up. The issue we have here, and I didn't really go down this path, but for decades, the county received that $850-some-thousand in liquid fuels money, and for political expediency, they handed it out to the municipalities to repair their bridges. So Muhlenberg, Spring, Cumru Township, and all the other municipalities were given liquid fuels money from the county. Why is the county so far behind? Because the county didn't keep the liquid fuels money and take care of its own bridges. Now we're advocating, let's take care of our bridges because everyone uses them.
Did you want to choke on that one?
Yes, next question.
Yes, Commissioner, Jerry Geller from Berks, Libertarian Party, I'm over here.
Yes, sorry.
You know, I'm being taxed to death already, and I'm sure that you understand that.
Stand up.
You understand? I'm being taxed to death already, I'm sure you understand that, and this is only $5. For you to come in with this idea that this is all about safety, and to go with this emotional appeal, is to me disingenuous, because the first thing that should be done, by the math that I could do in my head, this is less than 0.5% of the county budget. Let's chop some budget first instead of putting the burden back on us.
Yes.
I mean, it's really simple.
The issue, I could go back and with my colleagues, show you over the last 9 years how we have cut money out of the operating budget of the county. Our actual operating budget is lower than it was 9 years ago. The issue with liquid fuels money and this registration fee isn't commingled in the general fund. We can do what we can to cut the cost of county government. This is a separate funding source to repair and replace bridges in Berks County. That's really what this is.
Well, they cut some more.
Well, in fairness, we have the obligation for many services. A 24-hour, 7-day-a-week nursing home, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week jail, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week 911 call center. Do the math when you multiply how many people have to be there taking police calls and fire calls and taking care of those people that need care at the nursing home and the incarcerated folks at the jail. It adds up very quickly.
Well, here's the math that I did. I was just in the courthouse last week doing some voter registration stuff. And I saw a lot of folks who I could identify as county employees just walking around. Okay, and in my former job, I delivered to the Schuylkill County courthouse, and I knew those people intimately. And a minimum of 15 to 20% of them did very little on any given day, and all they did was walking around. So my experience is that there's a lot of folks walking around that courthouse not doing a lot.
Well, we have cut hundreds of jobs. We had vacancies that weren't filled. We've cut a number of jobs. And in fairness, we've cut to the point where we are jeopardizing some vital services in the county. I'm not going to cut nurses. I'm not going to cut corrections officers. I'm not going to cut 911 call takers. And the people that may be walking around, I can't explain that. Maybe they're on break. Maybe they're on lunch. Maybe they're going to get the mail. I don't know. But the overwhelming majority of people that work for the county are dedicated, hardworking employees. And they don't work for a lot of money. A lot of these folks could work for a lot of higher wages in the private sector, but they choose to work for the county for various reasons. And in my personal opinion, a lot of them really work there because they care about the community and they care about giving to the community. And I see those people every day working in Berks County. So I'm sorry for your experience, but I don't see the same thing.
Yeah, I'm paying $86 a year on my pickup truck. So you're going to tag another $5 on that. What's my cost?
It would be, yes. It would be $5 on your pickup truck and $5 on your car.
Yet I see all these farm equipment on the road, busting the macadam up, drawing up against the road. What are they paying?
They have a registration sticker, correct?
They're exempt, right?
They're exempt. No.
Well, why am I paying that much for it?
Yeah, that was way back 89.
I mean, I'm on a fixed income. I'm retired. I worked 56 years of my life.
Are you aware, sir, are you aware that seniors are entitled to a $10 reduction on your vehicle registration?
No. If I am, nobody ever told me about it.
Well, I'm here to tell you.
Well, why isn't that made known then?
Well, it's something that I think if your state legislators, state senators, go to their office, they have forms that you can fill out to get a lowering of the 36 down to 26.
We went to people like that about other things and got no help.
Okay. Well, next time I'm here, I'll bring some forms up. How's that?
And you were one of them.
What's that?
I went to you before about something on a property.
Okay.
Houses, and people can't help us.
Okay.
So how are you going to help me on the registration?
I can certainly see that you get the forms, sir. Yes. Yes, next question.
It's gonna start at $5.
Yes.
Couple years.
Hold on, wait till you have the microphone.
Get the mic.
Actually, Act 89, you can only, it is only $5, not lower, not higher, it's only 5.
What about in 5 years?
It's still 5.
$10?
No.
Legislation clearly states if you're going to enact it, it has to be funded.
As of now.
Well, yeah, but it's not us that would change that. The county has no authorization to change that. That's only possible if it's changed at the state level.
Okay. Next, whoever gets the microphone, right?
Yeah. Questions are directed to the microphone, please.
I've got 2 questions. On that pie chart you had up there about your bridges since 1996, and your goal of 2, no, Nick, go back.
There we go, sorry.
What about all those years that are blank? What'd you do?
Well, these are the years that the previous boards of commissioners were giving the money away that we should have been using to repair our bridges, to be honest with you.
And my next...
I'm being fair. There was neglect in the county commissioners since 1996 till Christian and I took office, and it took us a year or 2 to start the incline in 2011.
All right, my next question is, for me to run my home, I have to live on so much money a year.
Yes.
If I don't have it, I have to figure out how to get it. How come government in general, every time they can't make ends meet, they tax or they deficit spend? That's all I want to know. Every politician you hear talking comes out their mouth, they're going to save this and save that, and it ends up costing me, this guy, the next guy money.
Well, the county doesn't deficit spend. One thing we're not allowed to by state law to deficit spend, we don't deficit spend. And I can go back and think that we probably saved about $120 million over the last 8 years and eliminated about 450 positions. So when folks assume that we continue to grow county government and continue to spend, I don't think that's a fair assessment. I think we've done everything we reasonably can to cut the cost of government where we can, and this is an optional fee to help us get caught up on neglected bridges that have been neglected for decades.
Well, I'm not saying that.
Okay, over here.
Why were they neglected? Who wasn't doing their job?
The previous boards of commissioners who gave the money out to the municipalities in order to buy votes.
You're right, my thing.
We have a question. We only have 2 more questions.
You're being honest, I'm being honest, so there you go.
We only have 2 more questions.
This may not be directly to the subject, but I want to say that I've been watching the 3 commissioners that we have in office right now ever since you took office. I think we're blessed to have you folks in those positions. I watched you, and you're fiscally conservative, and you're careful with our tax dollars, and I just hope that you guys stay in office forever.
Thank you. I won't be in office forever. I'll eventually be old.
Last question.
Okay. Okay. All right. The question is, I have a number of trailers, okay, which are like pull behind my pickup truck.
Yes.
I don't use more than 1 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are those going to be included in that registration fee?
Are they the trailers that you can get a $5 registration for? I mean, a 5-year registration for?
Well, I have a permanent plate on one.
Okay, if it's no matter what vehicle it is, or if you can have multiple year registration on it, you don't pay annually. You only pay the fee at the time of registration. So if you have trailers that have 5-year registration, you pay $5 once every 5 years. The other thing that's out there right now is that under Act 89, and this was adopted by the state, there's an option that's supposed to kick in at the end of this year. If we give you, as a citizen of Pennsylvania, the right to register your vehicle for 2 years at a time, if that goes into effect, now, I will admit that there's an effort in the legislature to revoke that before the end of the year. But if that goes into effect and you opt to go for the 2-year registration, you only pay the $5 fee once because you pay it at the time of your registration, not annually.
And just one last thing to...
Sir, it would be 5 if it went to every other year.
$5 per registration, that's it.
So that's why we put the 70% there in the beginning, so you'd see if we really came down and people started to register every other year, that number from 1.9 would come down.
He's talking about Everything.
One last thing. What is the age on the senior citizen discount?
I'll bring the forms, but I think it's 65.
65.
And there's an income minimum, well, there's an income level that you have to, I think it's $19,400. So, okay, I don't make the rules in the state. The state says if you earn less than 19,400, Chris Winters probably knows the form, but it's like $19,400, and you would have a $10 discount on your registration fee. I just wanted to bring it up that there are some efforts that you can lower those numbers, but just thought I'd bring it up. Shoot, you don't have a microphone, but there you go.
All right, I was just asked a request here. Let's take a straw poll vote. All those in favor of the $5 tax, raise your right hand. How about opposed? Okay, thank you. Sorry, I was asked to do that.
No, it's quite right. It's quite right. That's why we're here. Yes. I'm sorry?
We were kids. When we were kids, we told the officials and everything at the Bud Street Bridge, we went through the holes in there, we seen cracks and everything, and we told them about, they laughed in our face. We walked down the Penn Street Bridge, because I grew up along River Road. We told them back in the 60s, the bridges are going to collapse. They laughed in our face. Why did you guys wait so long, and now all of a sudden, now you want to fix them? Well, still, all this money you could have saved, millions of dollars you could have had fixed. And you waited all this year, you're putting $50 million to fix Button Street Bridge, which could have been done for maybe $1 million.
I can't disagree with you that if rehabilitation and restoration was done on a timely basis, that would have saved some money in the long run. Right. And we can get into details about the county facilities, the jail, the nurse, and all those buildings that were left go back for many years that the county didn't raise tax and said we're saving you tax money, and the place has crumbled before us. Now we are making a concerted effort to rebuild and replace buildings that are structurally falling apart. We tell you, the elevators, have you been in the services center of the courthouse lately?
Yeah.
Those elevators should have been rebuilt in 2005. The commissioners at that time decided not to spend the money, so we're spending it in 2016 because there are millions of trips over their useful life. So there are things that we got saddled with that we're trying to fix, and it's not easy to stand up here and say, I need this amount of money to make these fixes, but county government's essential. There's a lot of things we do that impact the community, and sometimes we have to ask for continued support financially to make things happen. We can't let things go and fall apart, and then it costs you double and triple to try to okay, so we tear something down and build new. It's going to be an awful lot more money.
I'd like to thank you, men, for coming out here.
You're welcome.
And there is another meeting on this subject. I think it's in
Birdsboro Borough Hall next Thursday.
Birdsboro Borough Hall. I've seen like there's at least a half a dozen people have more questions, but due to time constraints, I'm sorry, we can't go much longer. So next Thursday, Birdsboro Borough Hall, what time?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. So if you have questions, address them down there possibly.
Thank you very much for those people that raised their hands.
Okay, folks, again, I also will thank you all for attending, and at this time, we will be introducing our keynoter for the evening, and our keynote speaker for the evening is Colin Hanna at Let Freedom. And this was not an easy task to get Colin Hanna's schedule and our schedule merged, but year after year at the leadership conference where Colin was one of the keynote speakers, I'd catch him in the hall or I'd catch him somewhere and say, we got to get you to the Berks County Patriots. And we kept saying, let's do it. We'll be there.
Hey, it's a little noisy out there, folks. Could you keep it down, please? Thank you.
Finally, this past April, coincidental as it was, we're at the lobby to go into the main event, and Colin Hanna's standing next to me, and I saw him again. I said, you know what, one day we got to get you to come to the Patriots. He breaks out his smartphone or tablet, says, let's go, pick a date. Now wait, I got to talk to my board. That was April. It took us till now. We finally merged with his schedule and our schedule, so we have him here this evening. But beyond that story, I want to tell you, if you look at the situation we have in this state and how timely it is to have somebody like Colin Hanna speak, I go back to the quote from his resume where it reads, promoting constitutional government, economic freedom, and traditional values. Now, if you think about that in Pennsylvania today, where are we? Just from memory, we have 2 House speakers went to prison. We have 2 treasurers. One's potentially indicted, and the other one was kicked out of office for double dipping, and I'm not even recalling if she saw time or not. We have 2 Supreme Court judges that stepped down in shame. We have a congressman in Philadelphia that is probably on the verge of indictment. We have a situation in this state that we have the reputation of being the most corrupt state in the nation politically. And there takes some people that can get it to our attention that something needs to be done about it. If I look at the quote from our flyer that we put out that you folks, I expect, received, where we said, what can we do to elect leaders with righteous principles? And that has a concern. That is a concern for all of us because we're not getting what we ought to be getting. If I look at Colin Hanna's resume, it's 2 pages long, and I don't want to take his time talking about all the things he's been in the past, but just for example, sunset the tax code is a key subject of his, and I'm sure he'll be talking about it. We need a fence. Hopefully we'll hear about that. He's a member of the Pennsylvania Pastors Network, in fact, one of the key persons of it, and we all know Sam Rohr, who is also in the Pastors Network, so there's some ties there. Politically, he was a county commissioner of Chester County from '96 to 2004, so I'm sure he had plenty of things he could have weighed in on an earlier conversation as one with experience in those areas. From 2002 to 2004, he was chairman of the Republican County Commissioners of Pennsylvania. And from 06 to 13, chairman of the Pennsylvania Pastors Network. And dear to my heart, he was a Navy lieutenant junior grade from 68 to 70. It's been a while since I had to salute my commanding officers or officers. Thank you for serving. And he's a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. I'll say no more except let him do the talking. And ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Colin Hanna.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Well, good evening. I am delighted to be with you, and Rod's entirely right. We've talked about this for any number of times, and it's just been awkward to put together. So I am happy to be in the company of patriots. That's what you are, and I hope that's what we are. By the way, I see another U.S. Navy veteran there in the front row. God bless you. In fact, let's do this. If you served in the military, or if you served as a sworn police officer, would you stand up because you took an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, and we want to thank you. was great with his introduction. I loved how he was going through all the people who have been in jail in Pennsylvania. Public office and then in jail. It's been an embarrassment, that's for sure, but it's actually, Rod, not quite as bad as Louisiana, where I was talking to someone the other day and he said, you know, when we who've been in politics talk to each other and we talk about terms, we have to be clear that we're talking about terms of office, not terms in the big house. So I think Louisiana might have Pennsylvania there. Rod spoke about Let Freedom Ring, the organization that I founded after I left 8 years of service to the county as county commissioner. And what he quoted from the resume is actually the motto of Let Freedom Ring, that we promote constitutional government, economic freedom, and traditional values. That's a pretty wide scope of things. That goes all the way from focusing on what the central purpose of government is, all the way into issues like separation of powers and what the constitutional authority of the legislature is versus the judiciary, all the way through economic issues, taxes, and so on, including foreign policy, all the way through to social policy, where I am proudly pro-life and pro-family. Rod also mentioned Sam Moore. I started the Pennsylvania Pastors Network in 2006, and I actually hired Sam to come in as president in 2012. And then in 2014, we actually separated the Pennsylvania Pastors Network from Let Freedom Ring so that he could go out and raise money for the Pastors Network on a tax-deductible basis, because Let Freedom Ring is what's called a 501c4, where donations to Let Freedom Ring are not tax-deductible. So that's that. Sam and I are the best of friends, and I'm glad he's well-known and well-loved here, as I knew would be the case. There are a couple of issues that I wanted to cover tonight. One, obviously, is the current election. So I'm going to ask for a little bit of audience participation and a Republican in that order. And I think that's exactly the right order, and I'd like to think that that's the perspective that I take as well. So when this year started, I was with another candidate whom, frankly, I thought came closer to that same paradigm. Christian, conservative, and Republican in that order. However, I think as the year goes on, and it's just undeniable that Donald Trump has done something that nobody else has done before, the greatest number of votes that any candidate has ever accumulated in the primary process in the Republican Party. And he beat 16 largely excellent candidates. As the year started, I thought, look at the Republican Party. Isn't this magnificent? Look at the bench strength that we have. Most of them are solid conservatives. They are, but I will tell you that I didn't think that Donald Trump would be the final one. And yet, what he did is not unlike what many of you in the votes. How far behind did I say Trump was? 25. If you were to add Pennsylvania and North Carolina, for instance, which has 15, there's 35. Flip 2 states, and the results, assuming that everything else stays the same, the results come down in Donald Trump's favor. So Pennsylvania truly is a swing state, a key determining state. How many of you really believe that the presidential election in 2016 might come down to Pennsylvania? I think it could. I had the great privilege last night of emceeing an event for WNTP, which is a 990 AM. I don't know how strong their signal is here in Berks County, but that's the Salem Broadcasting conservative talk show station in Philadelphia that carries Hugh Hewitt and Mike Gallagher and Dennis Prager and so on. You all familiar with that station? Many of you listen to it? Well, I emceed the event with those three: Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, Dennis Prager, the great Hollywood actor John Boyd, and Sheriff David Clark from Minneapolis, from Wisconsin. They came to Pennsylvania because they decided that this is a key. So they asked me, help us understand Pennsylvania and whether it's really has the potential to go for Donald Trump. So I went through that analysis that I'm sure you've heard that actually originated with James Carville way back 40, I think, 35 or 40 years ago, where he said Pennsylvania is easy to understand politically. It consists of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Alabama in between. You all heard that? Well, the Alabama in between is the mid-state and the upper tier, forms the T, as sometimes called, and the T, there's no question in 2016 that the T stands for Trump. Therefore, you look at Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and most of the people outside our state look at the two as essentially the same, as classic urban Democrat strongholds. But I believe that the Southeast and the Southwest are really very different this year in particular. And I think that the Southwest is going to have a lot of unexpected Trump votes. I think in part because there are a lot of middle class, working class, hard-working individuals in the Southwest that either are in the steel industry, in the coal industry, or in other manufacturing industries, or in the Marcellus shale industry, or were in some of those industries because the unemployment has been so bad, particularly in steel and coal, or are related to people who are. And they look at Hillary Clinton and they say, she's bad for coal, she's bad for steel, she's bad for Marcellus shale, she's bad for manufacturing. Many of those are union members who haven't voted for a Republican candidate for president since what? Think about it. Ronald Reagan, exactly right. So I think that there are a lot of so-called Reagan Democrats in the Southwest who are going to vote for Donald Trump, and it's going to completely change the normal balance, the normal calculus, where right now, almost all the polls show Hillary Clinton 6 points ahead in Pennsylvania. 6 points is nothing. Furthermore, all of these surveys that you see are based on what's called a likely voter turnout. In other words, the surveyors have to make assumptions about who's going to show up at the polling place and weight their sample accordingly. So if the assumptions are wrong, then their estimates are going to be wrong. And I am convinced that there are going to be the kind of people we just described turning out in numbers that they haven't seen. All of these estimates are based upon prior turnout. I think this is going to be a different kind of turnout election. So let's assume that the T goes for Trump. Let's assume that even if the Southwest as a whole might wind up county by county going for Clinton, the margin is going to be a whole lot less than it's been in the past. That means that the pivot point for Pennsylvania in 2016 is right here in southeastern Pennsylvania. Berks County, Lancaster County, and east. And it is almost literally true that the future president of the United States, the decision the nation makes, is up to you. It is up to us. And we need to get out there and make sure that we turn people out, we get neighbors out, we make sure that people are registered. If you have the opportunity to do a nonpartisan voter registration in your church, do so. If you need the support and help of someone like Sam Rohrer and the Pastors Network, to meet with your pastor, to assure the pastor that that's not anything wrong, that they're not jeopardizing their tax status. Nonpartisan voter registration is expressing Christian civic duty. That's exactly what ought to be done. He can provide all of the support that a weak-kneed pastor might need in order to do nonpartisan voter registration drive. Do all of that stuff, because literally the future of the nation depends, I think, on us And the direction of this nation, particularly with regard to the Supreme Court, depends on us. I don't know how many people in here. I see an NRA cap there. I'm sure a lot of people in this room are strong Second Amendment supporters, as I am. You know full well. You know full well that Hillary Clinton is not a strong Second Amendment supporter. Is she going to repeal the Second Amendment? No, she doesn't have to. All she has to do is make those Supreme Court appointments who will interpret the Second Amendment as an archaic right that no longer applies since we no longer have militias. And I'll tell you, the federal appeals court system is full of justices who would just be delighted to make that ruling. And at that point, we begin to lose one of our most important rights. Another important right is the right to religious expression. We were talking about the importance of God in the heart and the center of American public and civic life. There are a number of people on the Democrat side, in fact, even a majority of Democrat senators, who want to either literally modify the First Amendment or through definitional changes truly weaken the First Amendment's protection on religious freedom. How many of you were upset with things like this bathroom bill controversy? Oh my goodness! How wild and crazy is that? That this should be a major political issue, that the state of North Carolina should lose NBA and NCAA tournaments over a bill that does nothing other than preserve the way things have always been. So anyway, so this year, Pennsylvania is absolutely in the center. One of the issues that Donald Trump used, I want to spend a few moments talking about, and that is immigration, because that's an issue where, again, I think he really touched the hearts of the American people. And I'm going to take you through an analysis of immigration that you might not have heard, and I really encourage you to listen carefully, because those of us who are in favor of enforcing immigration laws, of protecting national borders, occasionally fall into a way of expressing it which isn't very effective, that it can be interpreted as somewhat racist and xenophobic, a word that simply means fear of foreigners. It's very important that you make the arguments knowledgeably and well, and that you don't fall into the trap of being accused of prejudice. So let me suggest to you that there are 5 different kinds of illegal immigration. And may we all agree in this room that one of the solutions to the immigration problem and challenge is that we must do everything we can to end illegal immigration? Are we all in agreement on that? So let me suggest to you there are 5 different kinds of illegal immigration. The largest, and the one most people think about all the time, are the people who come here for economic opportunity. They may come here illegally, but they come here because they can't earn a living where they live. They have a family that they can't provide for. They hear and see that there are jobs in America, that there are so-called jobs that Americans won't do. And they will come here, they will fight, they will go across a parched desert, they will break through chain link fences, they'll do anything to get here in order for economic opportunity. I think most of us, at least at one level, understand that. And yet, we also are a nation of laws, and we want to preserve our borders in order to preserve our economy and our culture, among other things. So, largest are people who come here for economic opportunity. Many of them family-oriented, hard-working, nonetheless coming here the wrong way. Most people treat illegal immigration as consisting of nothing but that. And I would argue that the only way that you can stop it, particularly from the southern border is a three-pronged way to address border crossings. You must have a combination of physical infrastructure. In 2006, I started WeNeedDefense.com long before the current debate, and I encourage you to go there. The site's still up. It's not terribly current, but the site's still up. Physical infrastructure and technology and manpower. You must have all three. You cannot do it with manpower alone. Think about it. It would take millions of agents spread out along the border to stop people from coming across the border illegally. You can't do it with physical infrastructure alone. As Janet Napolitano famously said, if you have a 50-foot fence, people will come up with 51-foot ladders. That's true, but it ignores a basic reality. And that is the purpose of a border fence, as I called it, or a wall, as Donald Trump calls it, is not just to stop, because indeed you can break through a wall, you can scale a wall. The purpose of a wall is to slow down, make it more difficult to come in illegally, so that, step two, technology, such as motion detectors and so on, will notify the Border Patrol that there is an attempted incursion at a certain area, so that you can get border agents down to that point. So you need technology. You can't do it technology alone. This notion that you can have some sort of a super eye in the sky that will somehow stop illegal immigration is nonsense. What the eye in the sky can do is detect illegal immigration. You might even be able to count the amount of illegal immigration. But that technology doesn't stop it. You need a combination of all three things. You must have physical infrastructure, you must have technology to make that efficient and effective, and you must have manpower. But the other four kinds of illegal immigration also need to be understood by the average American. One of them is criminal activity. There are any number of crimes that we all know that have occurred because of illegal immigration, and there are crime syndicates that, through drugs and other criminal activity, bring people in illegally in order to destroy the very basic infrastructure of America. So we've got to understand the drug and criminal aspect of it, and you don't simply excuse it on the basis that there may be people who are coming here for economic opportunity. Isn't that wonderful? They're hardworking, great family-oriented people. Secondly, we'll call that drug trafficking to give it a simple handle. Thirdly, there's human trafficking. And in many ways, this is the most distasteful of all, because people in 21st century America don't want to really believe that there are such things as slaves today, that there are, in fact, sex slaves who are brought into this country in order to fatten the pockets of some of the slimiest people on the face of the earth. And yet, literally tens of thousands of primarily little girls, not exclusively, are brought into this country as sex slaves. Now, you tell me if so-called turning off the jobs magnet, you ever hear that expression? Well, we can solve the immigration problem easily. All we have to do is turn off the jobs magnet and make sure that we have a good ID system at your point of employment. I'm all for that, don't get me wrong. We should have that. But turning off the jobs magnet is not going to do anything about drug trafficking, and it's not going to do anything about human trafficking. Fourth type is national security threats. Many people don't realize that every year, several hundred illegal immigrant attempts are stopped by the Border Patrol. And the Border Patrol, some of the officers that I've spoken to on the southern border say that they think that they perhaps get 10% of the actual crossers that they're able to apprehend. Some say 20 or 30. Whatever that number is, the number who get away is infinitely higher. And every year, several hundred are apprehended crossing the U.S.-Mexican border who come from nations that are on the State Department sponsor of terrorism list. Tell me, does somebody from Yemen come to Mexico so that they can get a lucrative car wash job in Texas? I don't buy that. I don't think you buy that either, just from your chuckles. We know what havoc was caused by 18 terrorists on 9/11. We just celebrated the 15th anniversary. Well, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and the national security threat can all be stopped in part by physical infrastructure. It is an essential part of it. Yes, you need technology, yes, you need manpower, but you can't do it without physical infrastructure. And then the last and final threat and component of illegal immigration are people who come in with public health problems. Most of the folks crossing our southern border have never had access to good health care. They may be carrying any number of diseases. They don't come in here intending to spread an epidemic or infect America, and yet they do. Many people don't realize that when we had our most open national immigration policy back in the days of Ellis Island, the principal reason why a potential immigrant at Ellis Island was turned back was because of health reasons, public health reasons. You cannot solve a public health threat by turning off the job magnet. So those are the 5 components of illegal immigration. And secure physical infrastructure, a fence, a wall, call it whatever you want, is an essential component in addressing all 5 of them. Now, what do we do about the 11 million or 12 million or 15 million people who are already here? That's not easy. It's a very difficult question. But particularly for those of us in this room who might identify as Bible-believing Christians, we need to keep in mind an ideal of what Christian immigration reform might look like. You know, there are a lot of people who claim to be Christians who I think most of us in this room might consider heretics. There are people who look at the matter of justice and mercy and conclude, well, Jesus was merciful, so I should be merciful, so therefore the way you apply mercy to the immigration question is let everybody in. That's a heresy in Christianity. That's a heresy in dealing with immigration. If you think that the nature of salvation is that everyone gets in because God is merciful, I think you've made a mistake. I think you're dabbling in heresy. The other side of the coin is frankly similarly heretical. By the way, that first heresy is called universalism. The flip side is legalism. People who believe that you earn salvation by following a set of rules, and that's all that matters. Well, there's the same heresy that is applied to immigration that way, and that is the people who say they broke the law, they need to go back, because after all, we're a nation of laws.